Have you ever walked away from a conversation, a meeting, or even a relationship feeling drained, a little off-center, maybe slightly resentful, but you can't quite put your finger on why? You replay the events in your head and nothing overtly terrible happened. No one screamed at you. No one outright insulted you. And yet, you feel used. You feel diminished. That feeling, that subtle erosion of your peace, is often the result of a boundary you didn't even know was being tested. We often think of boundary violations as loud, dramatic events, the screaming match, the blatant insult, the obvious betrayal. But the most dangerous tests are never the obvious ones. They are the silent ones, the ones that happen in the gray areas of human interaction. They are the tests that, if you fail them, teach people exactly how to treat you, or rather, how little to treat you. Today, we're not just talking about setting boundaries. We're going deeper. We're going to expose the 5 subtle, almost invisible, ways people probe for weakness in your character, in your time, and in your spirit. And more importantly, we're going to learn how to respond, not with anger or with passive aggression, but with the unshakable, grounded composure of a Stoic. This is about building a fortress of self-respect that requires no loud announcements, only quiet, consistent action. Before we can understand how to defend our boundaries, we need to understand what they truly are. In our modern therapy-speak culture, we talk about boundaries all the time, but I think we've lost the plot a little. We think a boundary is a rule we impose on other people. You can't talk to me that way. You must respect my time. But from a Stoic perspective, that's putting the cart before the horse. It's an attempt to control the external world, which the Stoics remind us is a fool's errand. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, said something that should be the foundation of all our relationships. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Let's reframe that for boundaries. A boundary is not about controlling another person's behavior, it is about controlling your own response to it. Your boundary is your personal policy. It's your non-negotiable line of how you will behave when faced with certain actions. It's the definition of your own integrity. When someone makes an unreasonable demand, your boundary isn't, "You can't ask that of me." That's trying to control them. Your boundary is, "If you make an unreasonable demand, I will calmly decline." The power shifts from them and their actions to you and your response. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor himself, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The strength we're looking for today is the strength to know where you end and others begin. It's the clarity to see these subtle tests for what they are, not personal attacks, but often unconscious human behaviors, and to have a preloaded, principled response ready. You are not being tested by a malicious universe. You are being offered an opportunity to practice your philosophy, to define your character. 1. The pity play and the martyrdom bait. The first subtle test is one of emotional manipulation. I call it the pity play. You see this when someone consistently frames themselves as the victim to get you to do what they want. "I guess I'll just have to do it all myself, like always." "No, it's fine. I'll just be stressed and overwhelmed. Don't worry about me." "You're so busy. I wouldn't want to burden you," said with a heavy sigh. This isn't a genuine expression of overwhelm. This is a tool. They are testing your guilt response. They are probing to see if your empathy can be weaponized against you. They present a problem, not to solve it, but to make it your responsibility to alleviate their discomfort. The Stoic response. The Stoic virtue of justice is key here. Justice is about giving everyone their due, and that includes yourself. You owe it to yourself not to be manipulated. You also owe it to the other person to treat them as a capable, rational adult, not as a helpless child. Your response is not to rescue, but to empower. You do not take the bait. You do not say, "Oh no, let me help." Instead, you respond with calm, non-reactive validation. "It sounds like you're in a tough spot. What's your plan to handle it?" Or, "I trust you'll figure it out. You're capable." You are expressing compassion for their situation without taking ownership of their problem. You are holding up a mirror to their own agency. This isn't cold, it's truly respectful. You are refusing to play the role of the savior, and in doing so, you force them to confront their own responsibility. As Seneca said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. Don't suffer for them." 2. The conversational override. Test number 2 is about respect for your voice and your presence. The conversational override is when you're speaking and the other person consistently interrupts you, talks over you, or finishes your sentences, not with enthusiasm, but with a subtle dismissal. It's a power move that communicates what I have to say is more important than what you are saying. This tests your self-worth. Do you believe your thoughts are valuable enough to be heard, or will you quietly recede, allowing yourself to be intellectually bulldozed? The Stoic response is, this is where Stoic courage comes in. Not the courage to shout back, but the courage to hold your space with serene firmness. The goal is not to win an argument, but to maintain your dignity. When you are interrupted, do not raise your voice. Do not get flustered. Simply stop talking. Let them finish their interruption. Then, pause for a beat. A calm, deliberate silence. And then, you begin again exactly where you left off with a simple, grounding phrase. "As I was saying," or "I'd like to finish my thought." Say it calmly, without a trace of annoyance. You are not engaging in a conflict about interrupting. You are simply, and politely, refusing to be derailed. You are demonstrating that your train of thought has a track, and it will reach its destination. This quiet, unshakable persistence is far more powerful than any counterattack. 3. The favor-shifting frame. The third test is one of social equity. I call it the favor-shifting frame. This is when someone does a small, often unsolicited favor for you, and then later uses it as leverage for a much larger demand. They bring you a coffee unasked, and then a week later, they ask you to cover their entire weekend shift. They help you move one box, and then they expect you to loan them a significant amount of money. The unspoken message is, you owe me. They are testing your sense of obligation. They are probing to see if you keep a mental ledger of debts and if yours can be manipulated. The Stoic response. This requires the Stoic virtue of wisdom, the wisdom to see the transaction for what it is. A genuine favor is given freely, with no expectation of return. A transactional favor is a contract you never signed. Your response is to politely but firmly decouple the two events. When the large demand comes, you address it on its own merits, completely ignoring the previous favor. "I appreciate you bringing me that coffee last week. Regarding covering your shift, I'm not available to do that this weekend." You acknowledge the past action, showing you're not ungrateful, but you evaluate the present request based on your own boundaries and capacity. You refuse to be blackmailed by a debt you never agreed to. As the Stoics believed, a good man does good for its own sake, not for a reward. Apply that to yourself. Accept favors only as gifts, not as loans. 4. The integrity probe. The harmless lie. This fourth test is perhaps the most insidious because it tests your core character. The integrity probe is when someone invites you to participate in a harmless lie, a small piece of gossip, or a minor ethical compromise. "Just tell him I'm not here." Or, "Let's not mention this part to the boss, it'll be easier." Or, "You won't believe what I heard about Sarah." They are testing your pliability. They are seeing if your morals are flexible. If you say yes to the small lie, you have just shown them that your integrity has a price, and it's only a matter of time before they come back with a higher offer. The Stoic response is the purest application of Stoic justice and wisdom combined. Your response must be an immediate, gentle, but non-negotiable refusal. You don't need to be self-righteous. You don't need to lecture them. You simply need to state your position. I'm not comfortable with that. Or, I'd prefer to be straightforward about it. Or, I try not to discuss people when they're not present. You state your policy. You are a man who does not lie. You are a man who does not gossip. It is not up for debate. By holding this line, you communicate immense strength. You show that your character is not situational, it is bedrock. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. In this moment, you are one." 5. The emotional bait. Manufactured drama. The final subtle test is the emotional bait. This is when someone brings you a problem dripping with drama, outrage, and urgency.